Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Farid Aziz and my partner Syafrial Daffa will presenting you about the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, presented by Syafrial Daffa and Farid Aziz. What is the OECD? OECD is a forum in which governments work together to address the economic, social, and environmental challenges of interdependence and globalization. A provider of comparative data analysis and forecast to underpin multilateral cooperation. OECD is a tool for governments since OECD born after World War II as the Organization for European Economic Cooperation to coordinate the Marshall Plan. Transformed in 1961 into the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development with transatlantic and then global reach. Today, the OECD has 35 member countries. More than 7 developing and transition economies are engaged in working relationship with the OECD. OECD mission to promote policies designed to achieve sustainable economic growth and employment and raising standards of living in member countries while maintaining financial stability, so contributing to the development of the world economics. To assist sound economic expansion in member countries and other countries in the process of economic development. To contribute to growth in world trade on a multilateral non-discriminatory basis. This is included in Article 1 of the OECD Convention. Who drive OECD work? First is Council, Oversight and Strategic Direction, representative of member countries and of the European Commission decision taken by the consensus. So there are the Council who work as the head of the organization that will work and then make a decision taken by the consensus. And then the committee. The committee is on discussion and implementation. Representative of member countries and countries with observer status work with the OECD Secretariat on specific issues. Secretariat, analysis and proposals. Secretary General, Deputy Secretaries General, and directorates. So the work of OECD first come from the Council. On the Council, representative of member countries and the European Commission, there is the representative for the member of countries, and there will taken the decision by consensus. And then we have the Secretariat. In the Secretariat, they are doing analysis and proposal. And then the last is we have the committee, discussion and implementation. Representation of member countries with observer status work with the OECD Secretariat on specific issue. Annual budget 188 million euros funded by member countries. The OECD Secretariat, they have 2,300 staff at Paris headquarters, work in 2 official languages, English and French. Staff members are international civil servants. Okay, the next PowerPoint and the next part will be explained by my partner, Syafrial Daffa. For Syafrial Daffa, I give you the time and place to present the PowerPoint.
Thanks to my friend Aziz. Now I will continue the presentation that we made. My name is Syafrial as the second presenter. Now we talk about OECD way of working. The first is data collection. Data are collected using a converged reporting system whereby bilateral and multilateral providers of development cooperation use a single file format called Creditor Reporting System or CRS to report at item level on all flows of resources to developing countries. After they get the data, they analyze it. Therefore, OECD discussions are based on objective data, and decisions are made by consensus in principle and among the members after discussion. Decisions are implemented and monitored by peer reviews and multilateral surveillance. How do peer reviews work? Simple. Experts from other countries closely examine one country's policy or practices in a specific area. These experts not only look for ways the country being examined can improve its policies, but they also look for lessons and good practices that can benefit others. In fact, the peer review process has often been referred to the international group therapy, where countries can openly discuss their problems and look to peers for objective guidance, advice, and support of the OECD. Next, we talk about OECD working with government. The first is sharing information in all areas of the OECD work. Second, country and region-based cooperation programs. The third, helping government and citizens in all countries to reap the benefits of international trade and investment. In other words, the OECD provides a forum in which government can work together to share experience and seek solutions to common problems. OECD work with government to understand what drives economic, social, and environmental change, measure productivity and global flows of trade and investment, analyze and compare data to predict future trends, and set international standards on a wide range of things, from agriculture and tax to the safety of chemicals. Next, we talk about OECD working with civil society. The first is consulting with business through BIAC, the Business and Industry Advisory Committee. Through BIAC, National Business and Employers Federation and their members provide expertise to the OECD and governments for competitive economies, better business, and better lives. The second is consulting with labor through TUAC, the Trade Union Advisory Committee. TUAC coordinates and represents the views of the labor movement throughout the organization. The third, expanding relations with civil society in such areas as the environment, trade, electronic commerce, and social policy. The last, made a web that people can comment easily. Now, this is how OECD work in economic and trade. First, analyzing and publishing comparative data and producing forecasts. Second, developing policies to ensure economic growth and stability. The third, helping government work together to strengthen the multilateral trading system. The fourth, encouraging the expansion of financial services and cross-border investment. The last, promoting best practices on an international scale. Next, OECD not only work in economic and trade, but also in social. First, helping to ensure equal access to education for all. But how? First, measuring outcomes. It means decisions about education policy should always be based on the best evidence possible. Second, teaching and learning. It means an understanding of how students learn and teachers teach is at the core of education policy. The third, developing and using skills. It means skills are central to achieving sustainable and innovation-driven economic growth. and also social inclusion. The fourth, policy development and implementation. OECD review the education and skill system in OECD and partner countries and assist countries in developing and implementing policies to improve those systems. The last is innovation and future of education. They provide policymakers with a deeper understanding of how the way OECD innovate is changing and what this implies for education and training policies. Now, the second is promoting effective and accessible health system. But how they made effective and accessible health system? By measuring health outcomes and health system resource use, and by analyzing policies that improve access, efficiency, and quality of healthcare. Next is fighting social exclusion and employment. Last is bridging the digital divide between rich and next, this is the OECD environment. First, making markets work for ecologically and economically sustainable development. Second, harnessing science and technology in the service of citizens in all countries. The last is strengthening decision-making to avoid wastage and pollution. And this is the governance of OECD. First, promoting good governance at all levels of government and corporate activity. Second, ensuring transparency and fairness in tax system and competition rules. Third, fighting corruption and money laundering and promoting high ethical standards. Last, supporting accountability and encouraging citizen participation in policy making. And this is some OECD achievement. The OECD Guidelines for Poverty Reduction, OECD Model Tax Convention, OECD Anti-Bribery Convention, OECD Principle for Corporate Governance, OECD Guidelines for Multinational Enterprises, Export Credit Arrangement, OECD Guidelines for Conflict Prevention, OECD Chemicals Test Acceptance Agreement, OECD Chemical Hazard Classification System, OECD GM Corp Identification System. And that's all. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.